Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day one here of EMEA Contenders Trials. We're starting off the day right with a fantastic matchup. We've got HSL Esports taking on Nihili and taking you through all of the action today. My name is Dor, and I am joined by the always amazing Moxie. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Dor. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Contenders Trials interacts with the new meta, because it's here, the age of Genji. We knew he would be coming back for a while. Genji means they haven't had the skins, they haven't really had a place in compositions. No more! Blizzard has allowed that DPS to come right back to the forefront, all the while slowly removing quite a few counters. So if you've got a Genji player and he knows his stuff, then you have an automatic leg up in all of these competitions.
I think just as exciting as all the Genji that we've been seeing, though, is the stuff that surrounds Genji. We have seen all sorts of bunkers being played even with Genji, acting sort of as a brawler. We've seen even the Brigitte post-nerf being played a decent bit. And these teams as well, we were talking about it before the cast. It has been a little bit since last time we got to see them in Open Division. So it'll be really nice to see how they adapt to a new meta and how they can bring something to the table that adapts to what they want to play as well.
Yeah, it has been a while since we've got to see these guys in action, and so the last time that Nihili and HSL Esports were properly playing at the forefront of competitions was way back when Echo just had come out and was dominating, and you had all of those double shield compositions with the Echo, with the Ashe, the Orisa, and the Sigma. And so all of the trophies, all of the tournaments that you were managing to be on top of, suddenly they don't matter anymore, because this is a big old new meta, and if you have double shielding, you're in a good spot. But we're not really seeing the Echo or the Ashe dominating the DPS picks now. It's much more moved into that Genji and how you can set up him to have those blades, to the point where those poor Baptiste on the other side, it's a horrible time, though, to be a support. Because if you're a Zen, you get bullied out of your ultimate. If you're a Baptiste, you get bullied into throwing down a 25-second cooldown. And as soon as those are popped, that Genji blade comes out, and all you can do is watch as your team is torn into shreds.
And there's so many different ways that people have been setting it up as well. With the double shield compositions, you and I have seen a lot of the bongo blades, which have been surprisingly effective, and these Genji's ability to stay alive is unfounded, I'll tell you that much.
I mean, it works though, doesn't it? Because you take the nano boost, that's normally an individual ultimate going onto one person, and then when you've got an Orisa, you've got a supercharger, and that affects your entire team. And not only that, you're able to place them. We're seeing Orisas being very careful about when they drop those deployables in behind your line of sight so they don't get taken out. And we've even got to have a little bit of a chat with some Orisa specialists to see whether or not it's coincidence that the superchargers comes in when the blade comes through. No, these guys are doing it on purpose. Superchargers goes down, and that sends the other team into an absolute panic. And so much utility, so many abilities are put in when superchargers initially comes down that you don't have much left to deal with when the blades immediately popped afterwards.
No, and let's talk a little bit about what we have actually going on today. Now we've gone over the meta a little bit. The format for this is a little bit interesting, seeing as the teams aren't choosing from a map pool. There's one already given to them.
Yeah, it's going to be hand-picked maps: Busan, Blizzard World, Anubis, Route 66, and if we get there, Ilios followed by Oasis. Looking forward to seeing whether it will be that longer map though, because remember though, this is a first to 2 instead of a first to 3. So if you're able to get off the board early in Busan, you set yourself up to take that match point.
Yeah, we're looking at what is likely to be a little bit of a shorter series here, but of course the first map is going to dictate so much, because you take this, you immediately send things into game point, and if that doesn't make a statement, if that doesn't put the pressure on another team, I don't know what will.
Yeah, and looking through these team sheets as well, Nihili has just a slightest bit of an advantage over HSL Esports, because they have someone who actually plays Genji. That's Ido. And you look at what HSL come in with that DPS lineup, there's the Echo, there's the Tracer, and these are things that you could run previously, but not really right now.
Yeah, out of the gate though, we're seeing two very similar double shielding compositions. However, Kurama and Sir Gibson swapping off to the Tracer is going to act like effectively a pulse bomb farmer, looking to separate away those shields, looking to put a pulse bomb into the backline and really break things down. Running up though, both of them want to take this high side. However, at the end of the day, it's going to be HSL getting the positioning they're looking for. Moving from a great position to dish out the damage for Gibson in the backline, trying to keep the rest of their team alive. But with Kage going down, they lose a lot of their damage right now. HSL need to be careful about how they proceed. They need to end this fight early, or else they're going to get ground out by just the dynamite of Otto and Kurama in their backline.
Oh, Nihili did such a good job of managing to pick up that point as well. So if you're HSL, you've got to try and reset as quickly as you can, because if you go any longer, you're just giving up tick percentage and ultimate charge. And look at Ido, 10% away from that first ultimate, and it's a completely different story on the other side for HSL. Kage hasn't even been able to get past 50%.
Absolutely. Kage now has a little bit of catch-up to play, but taking out that Axe so early was so important, right? You remove that main source of damage. The Tracer effectively is going to be playing janitor, sweeping and cleaning up all the damage that Dynamite's able to do, but with Vox Nihili in such a good position, it's going to be extremely difficult to actually land those. HSL now, they're trying to take the same way around that they did prior, but they've already taken a ton of damage getting there. The Bob is up, so is the Amputation Maker. There's so many things in their way. With the Immortality already going down to Vox Nihili, they need to be careful about how they proceed here. HSL wraps their way around, put themselves in a very good position away from that Bob, but they're being collapsed on, and NKB takes out Snappy to start things off, and after that, the team's just going to crumble a bit as HSL fall once again.
Oh, it's the pincer movement, and it's so clean, it's so clinical. You don't go for the front line, you take Snappy out on that Batiste first, and when you have that Brigitte, remember the shield, it's still the same, but you have to worry about those armor packs. You can't get overhealed, which means if your Batiste goes down, you are just gasping for breath in any sort of fight.
Yeah, losing the main healer, and that is going to be a real detriment, but now we see another approach from the same angle. Kurama. He's got the pulse bomb. Who is he going to aim for? Blink in straight onto the Ash, catches two, and down they go. HSL yet again, 87% ticking over onto the point, and they don't have much of a chance, but they're gonna try. Barretts finds them too, and Bob onto a third Vendetta. They're pulling it back. HSL stand a chance of this. They just need to remove that Orisa, and they can take care of this point.
Oh, they need to worry about the Tracer though as well. Kurama doing such a good job already. 60% to that next pulse bomb, and there's no CC.
The Tracer on point, ADM making it back in. It's all about the stall, but one of them will fall. Kurama goes down, and there's an opening right now for HSL to take care of.
Oh, this is going to be extremely hard though, even if you're able to get that flip going on through, because Nihili will be so close to those ultimates, and HSL we need to win every single one of these fights.
Yeah, it is must win, but you're coming in. You only really have the pulse bomb to work with. Meanwhile, Vox Nihili is coming up on so much.
Yeah, you're coming in with a Bob. Kurama's so close to that pulse bomb, and we've already seen that pulse bomb can be huge. The one thing you can be quite happy with though is that NKZ had to swap onto the Hammond just to try and get back into that fight and keep the stall contested for his team. And so the ultimate charge on that Sigma Flux has been completely reset, but likewise, so has Vendetta. If either of those guys are able to get that ultimate online faster than the other, they've got an automatic advantage.
For the universe to make sense to you.
It's about using that advantage and making sure you can roll it into a mad victory right now if you're HSL. That's going to be so key for them. At 25%, you're only a quarter of the way there. You've got a few more fights to go. But right now they have this middle of the point possession, and they're using it beautifully to take down member after member of Vox Nihili.
Yeah, Proki gonna pop the rally, just giving everyone a little bit of that armor, trying to deal with this pop. It's a lot of investment though.
Yeah, now we see Vox Nihili. They've taken up position on the point. The bomb's really the only bit of HP left for HSL. Overtime is going to begin to tick down here, and it feels like map 1 is going to be heading straight on over to Vox Nihili.
Right, Kurama did not even have to use that pulse bomb. And I think if we're looking at what HSL were running, they tried to go for that mirror matchup, right? And in those first engagements, we saw that the mirror matchup was just a little bit uneven. And they were trying to put Sir Gibson against Kurama, but Kurama was the one trying to die with those pulse bombs. And so at a certain point, about halfway through the map, you need to start thinking to yourself, maybe it's time to swap up your composition. Maybe it's time not just to have the Brigitte there to counter the Tracer, but something like a McCree with that flashbang to give your backline just a little bit more safety. Because Snappy was always so vulnerable, so juicy on that Batiste, and always target #1 for Vox Nihili to go for.
Yeah, not to mention how well they rolled after the first fight. They used the ultimate advantage so beautifully, taking the economy and never letting go of it. Now they're on a completely different composition. Vox Nihili are looking to do the exact same thing. Meanwhile, HSL sticking on to the tried and true. The double shield still remains. Now it's all about setting up for the dive, but Kurama already goes down. Kage takes his head off his shoulders, make it 2 even. Take a bite out of the team, and an early fight win here for HSL.
When you couple up a Tracer with a Sombra, you are always going to be lacking in that damage department, especially if your front line is dive. And if you're Vox Nihili, you need a target to go for, right? You want to gravitate towards Snappy, but Snappy is going to be in the midst of this double shield composition right there with that immortality field, with that Brigida, with the shield bash, and it's going to be so hard for either the Sombra or the Tracer to find value, and you're seeing it right down to ult charge.
Yeah, and again, they're going to struggle to find value as they have not managed to break this bunker at all. Sir Gibson, the only one in any remote trouble, will just get picked right back up to 150 HP. Kage, though, goes down in the back quietly. Probably going to be taking him down. Will get trade out for his life, but that's a lot of the damage gone from this double shield. Now there's an opportunity for Vox Nihili to move in. They can take their time because they're not getting constantly dynamited and burned down. Their backline falling one by one. Snappy goes next. Nat will fall, though. It's trades left and right here.
Well, HSL going to have a little bit of a swap Kage onto the McCree, but it means you don't really get into the fight fast enough to contribute other than flashbang, and now you've already gone down.
And finally, we're going to see Vox Nihili grind it out and close out this fight, but that was a pretty serious amount of stagger from HSL.
Yeah, but if you're Vox Nihili, you're happy. You've built up your win condition. IDEO is going to have EMP, and if you're HSL, the composition that you're playing, it's going to be so bunched up, so close together. It all hinges on Snappy. If Snappy gets caught out by this EMP, the team is just a free fight loss. If he's able to survive, if he's able to get the immortality field out, then you've got a chance.
You can see he's staying on the high ground here just to avoid it. Beautiful play by the Baptiste. You see that immortality field comes out. It's going to save their lives, but not for the pulse bomb. Maybe, yes. It's just enough to keep them alive. Now Adam trying to reposition. ADM wrapping their way around, but the dive going to be relatively unsuccessful for the time being.
Yeah, and you do see Froki actually pop that rally to try and keep Vox Nihili still up and alive, but it's HSL who are going to be coming in to these ultimates that they can really use to overpower.
Yeah, and just about even percentage about to be on these points. HSL is going to be wanting this take back, but it's going to be really hard for them.
I mean, Kurama does manage to get 2, make that 3. And here's the thing, if you're HSL, you're running so much Tracer counter at the moment right now. You've got a McCree. You've even swapped the Gibson off the Tracer yourself and onto the Tourbillon, so you've got that turret that you can just plonk down and deter that Sombra, that Tracer from chipping away at your backline. But it's so hard to set up if you don't have control at that point. You've got the ultimates, you've got the Sigma Flex, you've got Kage with that McCree, and you know you're going to be going for that higher noon.
Yeah, this is likely to be the best opportunity that HSL are gonna get. It's just a matter of whether or not Vox Nihili can find that pick, use that dive effectively to take down one of the supports. Likely Snappy would be the most optimal for them, but they're gonna use the Grid Flex very aggressively, put down Jaru onto the point, and now with the dive having a lot less field to work with, we'll see the double shield move up and take down Kurama. Now with so much space to work with, HSL are feeling a lot more comfortable about this take.
Yeah, but Vox Nihili, they know they've just got to get this EMP online, and so it's all about setting the stage up for Ida right now.
Absolutely. Getting percentage, getting it into that final fight territory so you can win off that EMP like you mentioned.
I mean, you've already got 85%, you just need that one last fight win, and HSL, they don't really have the ultimates to try and keep you away right now. You've got a Molten Core, and that's a lot of space control on the point. But it's Snappy that you have to worry about. This defeat is the one thing that can immediately screw your plans.
Absolutely, but he does get caught in the EMP and will be the first to fall. Vox Nihili have so much follow-up. Even the pulse bomb's still in line for Kurama.
Going to be keeping it online just a little bit longer as well. HSL did manage to get that flip, still that 96%, but now Vox Nihili have picked it up, and they will still have that pulse bomb in the pocket. In fact, Snappy's onto the Moira just because he's afraid that Tracer's going to be coming for him to try to stick up.
Especially difficult. ADM already going down. The target focus is so good here from Vox Nihili, and you can already see him hunting with the pulse bomb. Doesn't quite connect though. Over time, beginning to tick down. It's going to make it really, really hard for Vox Nihili to actually gain position on the point. You see Kage is going to get knocked out of position, but not before he can take down the Ana. Nat falls, and it's slowly being turned the way of Vox Nihili as the engagement falls flat.
Yeah, Froki able to just clear off the rest of those members of HSL. And it was, you know, a much better shot that HSL had on that map because they started putting in those counters with that McCree, with that Torbjorn, but they still just weren't able to stem the bleeding because they had one thing that counted the EMP, and that was an Immortality Field. An Immortality Field, unfortunately, is just so easy for teams to work around when it's got that little chip of health bar, and it only comes online 25 seconds each time.
Absolutely. I mean, Snappy played it really well one of the 2 times that he ended up getting EMP'd, but unfortunately it's just not enough. I think they needed to win more fights while the EMP wasn't available for Fox and Nihili.
I mean, the thing was, they all kept coming from the same places, right? They didn't have that sort of double focus that was available for Vox Nihili's composition. When you've got that Sombra, that Tracer, you don't do a lot of damage, but you've got a lot of map coverage. And so if you're able to harass all of these small pockets and sort of shepherd the majority of HSL into your double shield composition where you can just collapse in on them, then it's extremely hard for HSL to actually break away from that. Because they didn't have anything beside from that flashbang, beside from that Torbjorn, and we didn't even get to see the Torbjorn properly set up those turrets because they just didn't have the time, the space that you need to get that luxury going for you.
Absolutely, and I think it's even crazier to see, though, Vox and Nihili, they were able to win on so many fronts, right? We saw them run 2 different compositions and win both times. Meanwhile, HSL could not get a foothold with this double shield, and even though they gave us a couple different looks DPS-wise, they really weren't able to find any success counter-diving, and I think what that has showed us kind of over this map was their issues dealing with pressure. Whether it was Vox Nihili pushing forward with double shield or with dive, they continuously gave up space. They never really successfully held their ground, and they suffered for it big time.
Yeah, and they didn't really have any immediate win condition to cycle forward to. It's like, you compare the compositions, Vox and Nihili have that Sombra, and that means everything that you do is all built around setting that Sombra up to get EMP as fast as possible because that's your free fight win button. You look at HSL Esports, they were running the Sigma, they were running the McCree. Both Flux and Deadeye were available for this team, and even better for those guys, there wasn't a Batiste on the other side. It was an Ana, which means no Immortality Field to bait out. You can Flux up in the air and pop that McCree ultimate and know that it's guaranteed to get picks. But what do? They do them separately, and they're only able to get tiny little bits of kills rather than the entire team wiped off the slate.
Yeah, and it's not just how you use your ultimates as well. As much as we saw the failure to combo their ultimates properly from HSL, I feel like Vox Nihili, second they gain control of the ultimate economy, it happened the same way it did in the first map, and then even more so in the second one because they are running something like an EMP. They have a very strong idea of this is what we need to use to win this fight so that we still have resources later, and then understood that they could afford to lose that fight against HSL because they just have 5 ultimates in the next one.
Yeah, if you're HSL, I think going forward, you need to really identify the crux of Vox Nihili's composition, because it should have been clear of day, as clear as day, that they were going to be moving towards that EMP. And that means that you put obstacles, as many obstacles as you can possibly manage to stop them. But the Sombra wasn't really the focus that they were going for. Time and time and time again, it really felt like HSL were trying to force that frontline fight, right? When they would just go for the tanks and try to move on the rest of the team from there, or try and approach the point, not from the sides, but just go straight for the throat and hope that Vox Nihili would try and collapse in on all sides. And because they were collapsing in on all sides, they're just a little bit weaker. They only have 1 or 2 people to fall back onto rather than the entire team to go for that trustful exercise. And it meant that the Sombra, that the Tracer got just a little bit more free reign than they really should have been allowed.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you put it best when you said they didn't put any obstacles in their way. Usually you expect the dive to really have to poke and prod and try and open up a couple doors here and there, like a mouse going through a maze searching for the cheese. But instead of there being a maze, it was just like a mouse and some cheese in the box. They just jumped on top of the cheese and they got it every single time.
I mean, HSL did try. They tried to put in the McCree, they tried to put in Torbjorn, but you didn't see the turret finding value. You didn't see the turret getting to chip away at that Tracer, at that Sombra, because you weren't in control of space. And a Torbjorn who's set up on a defense is always going to find more value than the attack job. And we've even memed it in the Overwatch community, you know, before Torbjorn came back to prominence in the beginnings of this year. If you saw an attack Torbjorn on your team, everyone would be calling for that player to be reported, because there's obviously something that they really don't want to play in that round. But because you were just constantly trying to move in with that turret where you just weren't able to set it up, or if you were able to set it up, it just got taken down as quickly as it comes off cooldown, then you just weren't really able to find much of that. And I would really have preferred they go for a sort of counter-focus play of their own, have half of the team moving on to point and the rest of the half focusing down that back line, because the Tracer, the Sombra were doing a lot, but they were alive for so long because there was just no pressure on the supports of Vox Nihili at all.
Well, HSL, they've got a few issues to fix in this upcoming map, but we're heading to a completely new style. It's going to be hybrid, and we're going to everyone's favorite amusement park. It's Blizzard World, and I think that offers up a lot of new options here to HSL.
Yeah, Blizzard World is one of those where you have so many options to choose from when it comes to composition, and we're seeing it right now. There's a Mercy on the field, too. There's a Mercy, and that means that there's going to be a lot of damage boosting. And that means that you have to be extremely worried and field something of your own that can try and contest Ido on this Ashe, because we know how quickly that Ashe gets up to that ultimate, 80%, 90% in that first fight of Busan Sanctuary, and that was before they had a damage boost attached to their backside 24/7.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a time here for HSL trying to take away the victory, but they're gonna do their best, starting off with the early Widow shots from Kage, not really finding all that much value, swapping over to the Ashe. That's not too much of a surprise to see here, but double shield into double shield is something and a song that we've heard before in this series, which kind of scares me for HSL.
I mean, what scares me for HSL is the Gibson on this Tracer, because you're just going to try and go in there, but you can't go for that backline because Pingu is going to be on that Mei, primary fire CCing you before you can even get a pick.
It's definitely going to be tricky for Sir Gibson, but he's also kind of their only way of cracking this open. They've broken the shields, though, and with that, Vox Nihili are going to be forced straight on back. They're rotating late, though, and Jaru going down extremely low, but just barely not going to be taken out. Sir Gibson, in fact, is being the first to fall, exactly like you mentioned, getting his head taken off his shoulders by Ido yet again.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be Rum on this Orisa trying to get away, but Amplification Matrix already up and invested for Vox Nihili is immediately going to shut that fight down. This is something you can take advantage of now, though, because if you're HSL, you're not running that Lucio, you don't have anything to immediately speed boost you into those engagements, which means if you're far away and Amplification Matrix is up for the other side and they're in control of high ground, you're going to take so much damage, you've already lost a person pretty much early on in that rotation. Now, Snappy's got an Amplification Matrix of his own, and so Gibson can go for that same play, go onto point, contest that double shield bunker up on the high ground, force them away, all while HSL drops that Amplification Matrix and clears up after him.
They're pressuring the point while they do this as well, and that's going to make it extremely tricky for Vox Nihili. They need to go contest this before they give away that second tick. Will do so, but now getting halted off the high ground. They forgot about their front line, and NKZ going to be the first to fall. Finally, HSL are starting something off right now. They can start working their way around the left side of the point, set up that double shield again, and go to town. Jaru, though, with the bongos, putting in a ton of damage, a huge halt, but it's just not enough without his off-tank to support him.
Yeah, Vendetta's got that Sigma Flux, but he doesn't even, well, he's going to use it. Little bit of an overinvestment, because remember, they don't have that Mercy on the side of HSL. The lost 80 amp, you're going to feel it tenfold.
Yeah, they're going to throw on that ultimate effectively as a safety barrier, but maybe not necessary, even though they did lose their main tank.
I mean, now you don't really have anything beside ADM supercharges to try and snowball your way through, and that's just not enough, because Pingu is going to have an actual snowball in this next fight. That Blizzard is going to be so scary, and once again it all falls down to Snappy, because the Tracer may not be caught out in it, but that double shielding, that front line is going to be devastated, and you put an NKZ with that Sigma Flex over the top of the Blizzard, and you're looking at a very easy teamfight win for Vox Nihili.
Absolutely, and yet again, we're seeing them come away with the ultimate advantage. It's exactly what we harkened on in our break, and we're seeing it again here, but Ido falls first, traded out for Kage. Neither team gets an Ashe. Never mind, a resurrect from Brokey. That Mercy pick finally coming in handy here for Vox Nihili. Gravitic Flux picks him up and lays him back down, but not to much applause. There's no damage to really follow anything up here.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, HSL on the retreat right about now, and ADM is going to be wanting the superchargers back door. It's going to be a little bit of an ego push for these guys until they cycle into some pretty powerful ultimates. But even then, you've got to be so worried, because you're going to be walking straight into Vox Nihili, who have that Blizzard, who have that free fight shutdown, as long as they're able to get it up once Snappy's invested that immortality build.
And again, it's getting out that immortality field. They've been extremely successful with it before. Snappy nearly gets accretioned into open area, but there's been such a good job from Nihili of just splitting players up, separating them away. So Gibson trying to poke and prod to kind of open up some sort of angle. But with the amplification matrix, this is definitely going to do it. Throwing in the blizzard, huge heat though from Vendetta, denies the snowball. Now it's free reign. They're forced into a small room. Double shield has them all set up. Snappy falls though now without main heals. This actually gets a lot harder for HSL.
Yeah, they're forced to use that Sigma Flux, and no one was keeping the Mercy away from Jaru's pack!
Oh god, it's all falling apart here for HSL. The Resurrect is there. Pingu still freezing people up. You go into the small room, you're giving yourself away to the Mei, and HSL somehow managed to lose that one in the latter half of the fight.
They do have a Bob, but that is going to be a better pill to swallow if you're HSL's ultimate economy, because you've got a Bob. But Jerry's got the supercharges, and a Bob has the health bar, and he can be shredded.
And again, over through this right room, Nihili are getting extremely aggressive. Jaru goes low, but won't be punished for it. Pingu, however, in the invulnerability field, is going to be keeping him up. And just HSL are unable to make any actual space. Finally, with the halt, they're going to get in onto Pingu, but a great wall will be saving the rest of Nihili as they're just going to happily retreat behind their notification matrix and dish out tons of damage onto HSL.
Oh, and Prote's able to get the res up yet again. No punishment on this Mercy, but HSL slowly pulling it back in this little side room. Snappy able to stay alive, keeps everyone up, and the Bob doing just enough damage to tip HSL over the edge and manage to win that fight over Nihili. But if you're Nihili, you've got a Blizzard. It was eaten the first time around, but if you're able to connect it this time, that's again that free fight win card this team is looking for to stem the momentum from HSL.
Yeah, HSL used so much to try and win that fight. Snappy had a clutch immortality field to keep people alive, but now Nihili are the ones with the high ground, and they know how to work with this. We saw it on the first point hold. They were relatively successful, but you have to contest this point. Good halt into 4, and there's that Blizzard that you mentioned. Sir Gibson the first to be taken down, and this fight's already over for Nihili.
It's such a beautiful bait play from Jaru. It looks like the Orisa's the one going to contest, and everyone from HSL sees a tasty main tank separated from the team, and that's when Pingu strikes. Out goes the Blizzard, and away goes HSL. And now, if you're HSL, you've got 23 seconds left, and you have to walk all the way onto that payload, try and set Vendetta up for a massive play with this Sigma Flex, and hope that Nat does not have the immortality field to save the team. Otherwise, you're dealing with 2 ultimates on the other side.
This Flux is the only thing that they have to get in. Starting off, though, is Nihili getting extremely aggressive. The Bongo, the Flux. Oh, he's laying down the laws of physics on HSL. They don't get to go anywhere. Will track overtime, but honestly, you're not getting much more than that. They're stopped at point B.
The only way HSL would have realistically been able to walk from their respawn onto the payload without losing a member in that rotation was if they swapped in the D.Va, because you needed Defense Matrix to just eat the amount of poke damage you were taking straight to your face. Supercharges is terrifying. We see teams turn tail and run away from them so that they don't have to take the brunt of the damage. But when you're in that space, when you've got 20 seconds left to touch the payload and you have to cross enemy territory, you've got to take the damage though, and they couldn't afford it.
Yeah, that last push was rough, but again, it all comes down to Nihili. They are constantly in charge of the ultimate economy. HSL basically don't get to do anything without Nihili's permission. Every time HSL win a fight, they're committing 5 ultimates, and Nihili, yeah, sure, we'll take that. Go ahead, use all your ultimates. We'll take the next one.
HSL also, they use ultimates to try and cover the fact that they're a player down. We've seen twice Vendetta now invest that Sigma Flux when HSL lose a player in these pushes to try and make up for the damage that that player is causing an absence for your team. And that, you can't do that when it comes to ultimate economy. Sigma Flux has to be used for something proactive, something to get picks rather than try and cover up a team's mistake. It's not a mercy res. It doesn't come online every 30 seconds. It takes time to build up to it. And we can see Nihili, their Sigma Fluxes, they're used properly, they're used right, and they're able to put them out when they want to, rather than being forced into that really awkward position.
Well, HSL have one opportunity to fix this. Remember, this is it. First to 2, so they lose this map. It is curtains for them for this match. However, looking to end it all. Vox Nihili coming out on a composition that we have seen them on before on this map. HSL still opting for Sir Gibson on the Tracer, who's been picked multiple times, has to get insane amounts of value here. Searching for that Mercy, searching for the Ashe, searching for the Baptiste. All those squishies in the backline are going to be the priority target. The halts come in, but it's all staging at this point. A good wall from Pingu is just going to buy time effectively here for Vox Nihili, but the first pick is going to say so much. Froki goes down. The supports get taken out from underneath Vox Nihili, and even in this back room, the Dynamite's going to land big. Now Sir Gibson can start to poke along that back line. Ido is not long for this life right now. 1 HP on the Ashe, and that's going to be HSL taking the first fight.
HSL doing a lovely job of separating Vox Nihili. They allow Sir Gibson to come in, act as that threat, and slowly but surely separate out, fragment the members of Vox Nihili where they just can't have that team play that these guys need. When you're running that double shield composition, everyone needs to be in the same space, especially if you've got those bouncers acting to keep that Tracer away from your backline. If Pingu moves away from Froki on that, they are going to be so vulnerable, and HSL are going to be looking to split them off yet again. This time though, Sir Gibson's going to be coming in with that pulse bomb.
Absolutely, and not only have they won the fight, right? They've won the ultimate economy. Now it's a matter of holding on to it, something that we haven't seen them do. They don't need to overuse here. They need to use effectively. The Gravitic Fluxes have not connected historically from Vendetta, but a good Halt Flux combo could win this entire fight for them. They'll just go for it. Halt in. The Gravitic Flux up, only catches 2. Immortality Field, though, will be forced out of Vox Nihili as they cower back around this corner, waiting for the shields to come back up as Jaru is taken extremely low. A lot of the resources have been ground away, and HSL have achieved a lot of what they wanted to with that combo.
Yeah, but if you're Vox Nihili, you're just waiting right now for Pingu to come into that Blizzard and Ido to put in that Bob.
Sir Gibson, though, is going to connect onto Ido. The Bob does manage to get used, though, just early enough. However, it's off point, trading blow for blow right now, but Sir Gibson is the one to fall. Kage, though, is alive, and that's a major damage dealer still up for HSL, and it's going to make this impossible pretty much for Vox Nihili right now.
And there's the restraint that we wanted to see. The superchargers are still up for ADM, so Kage keeps a hold of that Bob.
And that's so big now coming into this fight. ADM's gonna drop the bongo, but so will Jaru. The damage both ways, but what a wall! Oh wait, he killed his own team! What are you doing, Pingu?
Yeah, that is the unfortunate haphazard circumstance of having a mate. Sometimes the walls separate out the enemy, other times they box your team straight into death. But Vox Nihili were able to pick up that point, and Pingu will have a Blizzard, which if you're HSL, you have to respect. So Snappy is going to be target numero uno, as we see Ido immediately trying to take the high ground, and Kage is so low on that HP, can't contest that Ashe for now.
Yeah, there's not much to take him off of the high ground. Kage is going to be set up there with plenty of support as well, and this is great for HSL. They can finally set themselves up in a solid position. They were constantly rotating on point, being picked apart, but they do have to hold this for 3 minutes and 11 seconds. That's a long time considering that Vox Nihili have a very strong ultimate economy yet again. They're looking to start themselves off, though. They've got the Blizzard, just waiting for the right opportunity to use it. But Kage finding the first pick onto Ido may dissuade them going for the Blizzard, but another eat from Vendetta! This guy is so hungry, ending fight after fight before they even begin.
We don't use the Sigma Flux, and he's so low. But Vox Nihili are burning everything that they've got right now. That Blizzard was a win condition, and they're so confused about what to do when it's been taken away yet again. If you're HSL, this is something you can take advantage of in this next fight. Vox Nihili committed so much. You're able to get ADM into that supercharger or Kage onto that Bob. That should be a fight win for these guys.
It should be, but it's just a matter of getting it up and staying alive here, HSL. This is the first time we've actually seen Vox Nihili really overcommit into something, so now we need to see HSL take advantage of. With Froki going down, who is in a very forward position, that's exactly the punish you're looking for. Now 6 versus 5, they can start to find more value, but Pingu, the icicle to the dome, Kage is going to be the first to fall on the side of HSL. It's going to open up a big opportunity to use that amplification matrix and get in for Vox Nihili. Now there's not nearly as much damage. Vendetta, another eat onto a Blizzard? That's the 3rd one today!
Yep, he is not being fed. And Hungry Sigmas are very good at tilting Maze, wanting that play of the game, but it doesn't matter. The Sigma's out, which means HSL don't have that main tank to fall behind and try and go for this contest. And now Vox Nihili are on the high ground. You're seeing Ido damage boosted there by Froki, just hoping to get an early pick and finish this off.
Yeah, it's the end of the map here, the end of the line for HSL. If they can even get a touch, 2.32 meters. No, you don't even get in! All the damage from Vox Nihili was just too much to make it through. And they're gonna take themselves a map 2 and a victory on the day.
Yeah, Vox Nihili doing such a beautiful job. You may have had your Blizzard eaten 3 times, but the fact that you were able to get your Blizzard up so quickly more than made up for it, because Mei does so much, especially when you're trying to shut down a composition that's coming towards you. She is the bouncer of all bouncers, that primary fire CC. No Tracer wants to go anywhere near her when she is just doing that amount of damage and supported by her team.
Yeah, the Mei was a real problem, and every single composition that Vox Nihili threw out was a major problem. They showed us the double shield with multiple variants, they showed us the dive, and honestly, they showed me something that looks really scary going further on into the tournament. Meanwhile, HSL looked like they were just declawed. They were not set for this meta. Sir Gibson was really struggling on the Tracer. We didn't see any sort of Genji play. We didn't see any sort of mix-up. They just bashed their head on the wall multiple times, and yeah, it's never going to break.
I mean, we saw a different side to HSL in that first defense, though, on Blizzard World. When they split the team and they managed to get Froki out of the way first, and then things completely turned around. Because the supports are gone and you're able to collapse in on a very weak, very vulnerable team. And that was what they needed to do continuously. But Vox Nihili did such a good job at making sure that their supports were well defended. Each one of their members of the team was constantly making sure Froki and that Batiste was safe inside your lines, making sure that the Tracer wasn't able to just one-clip them going on through, and allowing that Mercy to get the reses off. Every single time Froki tried to go for a res, there was no punishment available from HSL, because if they tried, they would have been torn to shreds by a team protecting one of their supports.
Oh, Vox Nihili may have looked impregnable, but HSL, again, not able to pull it out. That's great stuff, though, for our first match starting off the day. We've got more to follow it up, though. We've got Roar Esports taking on the Ultimates in just a bit. And we're back, ladies and gents. Contenders Trials EMEA continues on with our second game of the day. We got Roar Esports taking on the Ultimates, just like game one. It's going to be me and got Moxie taking you through all the action. Now, Mox, it was a relatively quick game one, but it told us a lot about what these teams are running, and we haven't seen as much of what we thought we were.
No Genji. I'm so surprised. It's been 2 whole maps, and we haven't seen a single bit of Genji. What time is it? What year is it even when you don't see Genji in Overwatch now? But it's going to be 2 new teams, the Ultimates versus Roar, and this is going to be, well, a little bit strange for one member on the side of Roar, because you've got Saito, who was on Clockwork Vendetta, and you have a look at the players on the Ultimates roster, and 5 of the 6 players all came from Clockwork Vendetta, which means Saito is actually going to be up against his former teammates, including Monk Mata.
So what I'm hearing is Zytor is either going to get the best day of his life and get to just rub it in against 5 of his old teammates, or he's just going to get bullied and never hear the end of it from 5 people.
Yeah, you know that at some point they are going to be trying to veer towards that 1 versus 1 to see who would come out on top. I think it may be a little bit unfair, you know, with roles. But it will be interesting to see, because obviously you know how your former teammates like to play best. And we haven't really got to see Clockwork Vendetta, unfortunately, because they have broken up, which is such a shame. They were such a huge part of Overwatch history, but we do get to see the former players from the team, and we know that they go for a specific style of play, don't they?
They have a very choice style of play, one that people should and hopefully are aware of by this point. It's one that we've seen in Contenders and Contenders Trials a good bit. These players play some very specific heroes, but given the current meta, do you think that changes?
Well, I mean, some of the specific heroes that you can play, you can run in this day and age, but you also have to sort of adapt. Because that DPS role, it's changed. It's fluctuated over the years. We saw Ashe come in, Echo come in, and Echo was extremely powerful when she dropped. So if you do actually cast your eye down the ultimate sheet and you look at their DPS slots, they do have a little bit of variety. Ashe, Widowmaker, Hanzo, Genji, Tracer, and Pharah. And remember, this is not Clockwork Vendetta, so the old one tricks might have been picking up a couple of new tricks to tide themselves over trials.
I think that's exactly what they need to be doing, right? If you want to find success, you need to adapt. And I think there's this middle ground there between the Ultimates composition that we suspect they're going to be running and what's being run in meta. And I honestly think that lands somewhere in that middle ground where you either use the Genji as a brawler or you run something like we saw in the previous games with the Ashe Tracer being extremely prevalent. You have strong hit scan. It's just being able to combine that with a little bit of those newer ideas.
I mean, I'm just looking forward to seeing whether or not these guys are going to be coming out with that mirror matchup that we got to see in that first series, because so often you run into a wall when it has that mirror matchup. One team obviously is always going to be better at running it, and it's a real test to see whether or not the people who were falling behind in that battle actually swap off, and a failure to swap off and adapt tends to result in a map defeat of its own.
And just like in the previous series, we're going to be starting off in the same map order: Busan, Blizzard World, Temple of Anubis, Route 66, Ilios, and Oasis. But Monks, let's kick it off here. We're seeing a lot of the same from what we did in the previous game.
I mean, we are seeing Widow though, and they're coming out with this. Monk Mad is going to be sticking, so Eli is going to have a real hard time being on that Echo. Every single time you fly up into the sky, there aren't much places you can hide on Sanctuary. It's so open when it comes to that skybox that you risk being immediately dinked in the head.
Yeah, but this team is sink or swim on Monk Muddo. Whether or not this Widowmaker is able to put in damage matters so much, because then you don't have the Dynamite, you don't have the Ashe to be constantly pumping out damage. If this Widowmaker can't find an off angle or can't find a pick, they're going to have a lot of trouble. Sar starting it off right, taking out Fuki earlier on and evening up that damage a lot more. Now Immortality Field being used by Roar, and they're running out of resources to win this one. Finally, from an off angle, Monk Muddo comes up big and domes Zytor down, and that's going to be a fight won by the Ultimates to start things off.
The Ultimates creating so much space for their DPS. Look at these ult charges for these guys. Monk Mata 91% to that first Infrasight, and Kissar already with that pulse bomb in hand. Whereas Roar Fuki hasn't been able to breach the 30% barrier on this Ashe because you haven't been given the space. And you can't be given the space. In fact, we're seeing Eli's going to go onto the Genji just to try and get into Monk Mata's space to allow Fuki the stage to go after Kasar, who's been constantly harassing him.
Absolutely, and this isn't a bad plan either, but oh my god, Sneak, and he finds another one! Oh, poor side sword! The guy can't catch a break starting off the fight right. No main heals to be found. The Ultimate's gonna easily take this one after that.
You've got to know where the Widow's set up. In Contenders trials, you know a Widowmaker who's uncontested. If you don't know where she is, she's going to be waiting. She's going to hit a shot on Monk Mata! What is this? Standing on main, even manages to pick up the shot and not be punished for the arrogance. And that was nothing but arrogance coming out from the Ultimate.
Yeah, Monk Mud is still gonna be a problem as well as another visor. Oh no, the same angle. There's no way. Are they
Please
spotted out?
don't let them fall for it.
I thought Eli was dead for a second. Amp Matrix is used either way. No, it's Henningsen dead, followed by Sir Majed. A quick fight win by Roar using the Amp Matrix and taking a ton of space with it afterwards. Kasar is gonna try and just buy a little bit of time, get some percentage, but it ain't gonna happen.
If you're Roar, now you've got a big old win condition for this next fight though. You can't allow Monk Mata to set up. And you're not even going to let them try and line up another headshot. So straight back this one. Lovely play coming out from the side of Roar because now Fuki's able to get those shots, and now that you're not being constantly contested by Monk Mata, who had all of that space, it's Roar's front line now that can create all of that area for the Ashe to just farm in this ultimate. But Eli, with this blade, that's going to be the thing that will try and use to win out this next fight.
Yeah, both teams starting off, dropping the bongos here, but already it's Roar getting the better of them. They've committed only 2 ultimates, and they've managed to take this fight by storm.
Oh, that's what you need. Ultimate economy. You're 33% on the point right now, and you need to keep these really big win conditions so that you can constantly cycle through them. And so if you're the ultimates, everything slowly starts to hinge on making sure that you can shut this Genji down before that blade comes through. Or you have to be able to kill him when Chalky Milk goes for that shield bash, otherwise you have just lost this next fight.
Absolutely. Eli has to come in with the Naked Blade. There's nothing to really boost it up here, but there's nothing to really stop it from the ultimate either. Chalky Milk has to hit this shield bash. Arbor looking to combo with the blade. They go in. Immortality Field has already been used. The fight's already over for Roar.
It's overkill though. It's a lot of overcommitment. You are going to be equalizing, but you could have held on to that blade. We saw in the kill feed, it wasn't the thing that picks up kills. It just slowly chipped away, and Eli gets taken out. Monk Mata popping that fight immediately afterwards, going to be searching for Fuki because that Ashe is so close to ultimate, and that's the thing that can tip Raw over in terms of this next fight.
Oh, that stings so much as well from Roar. That thing that was supposed to deal with Monk Mata no longer can. And you see how free these sightlines are. They can do nothing other than just stay away. But Zaitor is going to fall. And this team slowly collapsing after a singular pick from Monk Mata. Fuki in a lot of trouble by the Tracer. Will get finished off. In fact, this fight rolling the way of Roar slowly but surely here.
Yeah, you can see because I'm trying to make something happen with this Tracer. The Brigitte's out of the way, so your CC, your main problem that you have to worry about, is also out of the way. And you need to win this fight because it's at 99 for Raw. And if you're Raw, you can just build up, right? You're going to be coming in with this Bob. Eli's so achingly close to that blade. If you're the ultimate, everything starts to circle around Antigon on this Sigma. Sigma Flex has to be up, has to be able to pull Zaitor's Immortality Field properly out to allow Kasar and Henningsen to set up ultimates of their own.
It's all about that setup, and for Roar, it's about building these ultimates up, right? You only have so much. You have to start off with the Bob just to contest point, but Monk Mata has the free sideline, and it's starting to farm your health bars. Fuki, the first one to lose their Bob, but both teams set up on point. The rallies are going to be what win this one, as well as the blade from Eli trying to get through all that armor, slicing and dicing his way around, but not finding all that much. Instead, it's Antigon finding a massive gravitic flux and all the follow-up that the ultimates need to take a map.
Yeah, Ultimate's able to just deal with these little bits of staggers. Raw not going to be able to have much pressure on that point. Zaitor's onto that Lucio, but even if you go onto that Lucio, there's nothing much you can really do. You were so far away from ult. Teemo might have been able to get those supercharges up online in time, but it's so hard for Nervous to move safely to spawn, from respawn back onto that point, even less so when you're trying to put the supercharges down and not see them shredded in seconds. But we're going to be headed downtown. And now that we've seen Monk Mada's Widow on Sanctuary, we might get to see that Widow yet again on here, or even the Ashe, because you take control of that high ground, and you take control of 75% of this map. It is so hard for a team that loses that first fight to safely be able to walk onto point when they're exposed to an Ashe who can two-tap your head.
Yeah, but we're seeing complete switch-ups from what we saw on the map prior. This time, it's Kassar on the Genji with Monk Mudda running an Ashe, and Eli swaps away from the Genji and onto an Echo. Now, Eli has to get a lot of value. I think they were assuming they'd see a Widowmaker here, but absolutely not. Great halt, though, into the Steak Bomb. That's a lot of damage for the Ultimates to deal with early on. However, not that big of a deal for them. Roar, however, getting pushed straight back into this bomb. They need to reposition. They're actually going to do so beautifully over here into the Mega Room. Still losing a lot of HP, though, and Admiral Raptor and Zytor, the supports fall, and with that, the whole castle's going to crumble.
Yeah, Ultimate's making sure that Brig is the one to go out of the way first and allowing Kassar to go in with that Genji 52% to that blade. Eli's going to switch, but that misread cost them. You are now half an ultimate behind Kassar, and Genji blades can be so achingly devastating, even though you've got that shield bash available for Admiral Raptor, even though you've got Zyto there with that Baptiste Immortality field. It pulls out so much utility. You can set the ultimates up for Monk Mada to come in with a massive big dynamite or even a bomb.
Yeah, such an advantage here for the Ultimates coming into this fight. Once the Ultimates get up, though, that's when we start talking about them. There we go. We're going to start off with the Gravitic Flux. Finds 3, lays him right back on down. Immortality field now forced out. The Ultimates have found themselves a kill, and now it's just about the follow-up. Amplification Matrix used, and that's an act of desperation because Kassar is coming in with a blade of his own to just shut that right on down.
Oh, that was such a misplay for Zyto. You were in a small room, you didn't have the space, you weren't able to get those shots going through Amplification Matrix, and now you can't drop it to keep the ultimate from making sure that they can get someone early on. As you move through, you can already see Kassar is getting very aggressive, and there's nothing you can do to punish him. If you're Raw, the best bet you can do is set Eli up for a massive monster of a blade, but there are so many things available for the ultimates that can shut you down.
The Ultimates as well, they just have their namesake behind them so much in the way of ultimate economy. They'll chuck in the Bob and Amp Matrix and just take away a free fight right now.
Yeah, this is really dire straits for Raw right now because you were behind in ultimate economy. You're 70% behind in that point. You managed to get Antigon, and that's huge. This should give you the aggression you want because you know he's not going to have that flux. Eli's free to go for that blade.
Yeah, you've got a massive shield advantage. You know they don't have a good flux that puts you in ultimate position. And right now, this is just clean up for Roar. That first pick was massive.
Yeah, that's going to have to be massive though for this team in the rest of the map because you've held on to Blade. That means that you have to open up this next fight. You can't allow Kassar to Blade first.
And this is getting a little bit worrying here for Roar. You're slowly bleeding out players, and losing Teemo is just as important as losing Antigon was in that previous fight. Now you're down the main tank, you don't have a shield.
Bro. Get down the supercharges, you've got nothing to give Eli that boost that Kassar's going to have available to him when he ults.
Yeah, without that key ultimate, that just means Ultimate's gonna take the space and use it themselves. Throw in the bongo for good measure. Zytor's gonna get taken out early. Kassar throwing the blade for good measure, and 90% as well. This is almost impossible for Roar to actually get on top of reliably.
You lost that Orisa, so you had to give up the point. And the ultimates, they've got the Orisa, they've got the supercharges, they've got the blade, they've got the team fight, and they've got Busan.
A big win for them there, and a very commanding one at that. I think throughout the entire match, they were dictating what Roar went to do, and even swapping off the Widowmaker, Monk Mada is still having insane amounts of value on the Ashe. You saw Eli tried to swap to an Echo to counter the Widow, but then the Ashe came out. The game plan changes entirely. You go back onto the Genji, but you've already thrown away the ultimate economy. It was so hard for Roar to actually build their way back into that game once the Ultimates had a control of it.
And even worse, they lost that first fight. And if on a control point you lose that first fight, you were already behind. And then you put into the equation the ultimates that you're lacking, that you had to swap one of your DPS onto a different hero so that their ultimates, the little that they'd been able to build up, as reset to 0. And when it's a blade, You need that up online as fast as possible, but the real nail in the coffin for Raw was losing that Orisa so close to supercharges. And the Genji was so close to Blade, but neither wanted to ult until the other would be available, because we know supercharges Blade, it's something that happens. It's a huge combination. It's pretty much going to be just as much of a staple as Grav Dragon Strike right about now. And it just cuts a team absolutely in half, because you try and deal with the supercharges, and you don't get to deal with the Genji who's blading into you, or you try to deal with the Genji and the rest of the team who are also buffed up by the supercharges, just turns around and nails you in the head.
Well, as nice as it is to dream about that and think of all the dead Ultimates players, it didn't happen, right? They had the chance to pull back the ultimate advantage. They had their way to claw back in. They had something they could actually roll to a 99% if they just played correctly. Losing that Orisa, it's the one thing. It's such an important mistake to not be making. Roar need to clean up their play a good bit if they want to find success when it comes to Blizzard World, because I suspect we'll be getting a good bit of the same.
Yeah, if you're Monk Matter, you are quite happy with the next map that's coming up, because it may not be the traditional hit scan friendly map like Junkertown Point A, but Blizzard World Point A is still a horrible place for people to walk through a Widow Crosshairs.
Yeah, Blizzard World, I mean, we saw it previously in the last match. We saw a Widowmaker pick straight out of spawn, going through the teleporter. We could see that stick around even longer, but Monk Mutta, even on the Ashe, really impressed me playing DPS. The Dynamites were there, the headshots. I think the primary fire is really underrated. People talk about Ashe's Dynamite and how powerful it can be in the middle of fights and how much damage it can put out, but Monk Mutta seems to have just as much pick potential on an Ashe as he does a Widowmaker with the primary fire.
And you know, like, the really scary thing is he's not being damage boosted. This is the guy able to do it without a pocket. And so if the ultimates, we saw a Mercy got put into a composition on Blizzard World to help give the players Ashe just a little bit of, you know, that helping hand. If Monk Matter gets that pocket, and if you have that 24/7 healing, and we all know how annoying, how miserable it is when you're an Ashe and you're shooting an Ashe that has a Mercy pocket, because you may be able to hit them once, but they're just going to be healed up, and you may even be able to hit them twice and get the pick, but the rest is just going to come through, and you've got to do the whole darn thing all over again.
Yeah, where's the sanctity of just allowing the 1v1 to be? The Mercy's not allowed to pocket when you're dueling. I think it's like an honor rule, right, Mox?
I mean, yeah, totally! An honor rule definitely would never pull out the Caduceus Blaster and go for the very low HP Ashe.
The Mercies are always going to try and finish them off, but here, these teams trying their best to take one another down, but pocket or not, Monk Mutta is coming out on top, and a lot of it has to do with the Ultimates making space for him. Their tanks, Antagon and Henningsen, have been doing a fantastic job with their shield placements, slowly grinding out the battlefield, taking foot after foot after foot, and getting their way in and behind the lines of Roar, who can't seem to get a footing no matter what map they're going to.
I would love to see Roar really knuckle down on this Widowmaker. Or even the Ashe, because Monk Matter has been the one thing that has allowed the Ultimates to get such an easy leg up in all of these fights, by pressuring out that backline. Saito has to be so careful, so reserved in that position to not be taken out early in the fight, the way we saw that head be picked off so cleanly on Sanctuary when Monk Matter was able to get that side snipe going off. And so if you know that the Widow, if the Ashe is going to be a problem, to the point where you put in a Genji and he tried to harass, that just sometimes isn't enough. So Dive has come back, and Dive is very much viable on Blizzard World. If you fear Monk Matter, just make sure that they can't play the game.
It's always an option, but Roar sticking with the tried and not so true right about now, which is something that I didn't expect to see from them. I want to see some sort of adaptation. Maybe run the Mei like we saw in the previous match. It doesn't exactly shut down the Widowmaker, but you can go and you effectively have this third wall to shut down a third sightline if you really want to. But I think they need to clean up their play individually as well. They were giving away a lot of those sightlines. They weren't holding their ground, and allowing the tanks of the Ultimates to take space was really where they made the initial mistake.
Yeah, I want to see a little bit more backline pressure going on to the Ultimates, and a little bit more resources invested from Raw on that front line, because Teemo cannot go down. This Orisa, we've seen it, what happens when Orisa goes down early in a fight. You have to invest to make sure that mistake doesn't come back to cost you, and that means you are going to be behind in ultimate economy and in shield health bar.
Well, the Orisa staying safe and cozy here on the point. Roar are going to immediately give up their high ground. Now the ultimate, they have a choice. They can wrap around to the left or the right. It looks like they want to be taking this left side, though. Take the direct duel and just poke around the right, trying for this two-pronged approach. But you're going to get pressured out just by the pure numbers on points. They'll regroup with one another. I think this is definitely the right idea. Now Kassar can reach around the back line and look to that first pick. Eli dropped incredibly low. The Genji falls, followed by Zytor. And the ultimates have already set themselves up right on point here. Just the tank flush from Roar.
Yeah, it's looking extremely dicey for Roar right about now because you needed to keep a hold of that point for as long as you possibly could. You would have had the high ground, you would have had so much time to be able to set yourself up for those early picks and to burn so much time off the ultimates. And now, the ultimates, they're going to be coming into this Genji blade. They've got the high ground, they've got the potential to keep Roar away from it and keep the payload moving for free.
They had the high ground more like. Henningsen is going to have to wrap all the way back around, and I think Roar have already recognized this opportunity to move forward and take this, and they'll do exactly that. It's the little mistakes, but they matter so much for a team of this high of a caliber. Now Roar, they're going to try and use the amplification matrix to make their way in. The Ultimate's holding their ground, though. Immortality field used, taking so much space, but they have to have the follow-up. They've taken down two, and they're going to finish it right on off by finishing off the bomb.
Yeah, it's just going to be real cleanup right about now. And if you're, because you're just waiting, you've got this blade, you're trying to bait Zytor out to use the immortality field, and then you can have that follow-up going through. But you got to get in, and that's going to be the hardest thing for this Genji, especially because Naru's going to be sitting on the Sigma Flux. And one ultimate for one ultimate, it's absolute value if you solo Sigma Flux with blading Genji.
Yeah, they're getting near as well to that Bongo Blade combo that we mentioned earlier. Using it dry, though, gonna take out Zytor. Jumps over the shield bash. What a heads-up play by Kassar. And they'll get pure profit from it as Eli is the last fall.
And he got out of the Flux. Never tried to keep Kassar in check with that Sigma Flux. And the Genji was just able to zip right past him and straight into Zytor. If you're Roar, you don't have that stopping power that a Sigma Flux provides. You've got a blade, and you'll have the supercharges, but the ultimates are going to have a rally, and all of that armor has to be cut out first.
Yeah, that support ultimate is going to be a real problem. If you can get past that, though, there's a serious opening here for Roar to make their way into. Wait for this Bongo to end. You're pretty alright with them just progressing forward. Take the high ground with your Ant Matrix and put in a lot of damage, but no, it's Teemo to fall first. And we know exactly how this one goes, Mox. When the Orisa falls, the team comes next. They're going to rally to try and force their way into the fight, but the bomb's in, and Naru's already down. The blade committed even from Roar.
Yeah, this is a big commitment from Roar, and you know that you have to win this fight so that you keep the ultimates away. You give yourself that time to set up ultimates to cycle on through, because you've got to burn this time away from them. You've got to make sure that they don't get to take your Batista out.
It's not feeling as good as it was for the Ultimates right now. They still got 5 people alive, but that spawn advantage for Roar is just so much to overtake. Now, Amplification Matrix thrown in for good measure here. They need to seal it out now. Naru is so difficult to remove from this cart alongside Admiral Raptor on the Brigitte. They're not able to finish off these kills. 6 members up for either side, and this fight's effectively reset.
Oh, if you're Roar, this is what you need to do, right? You need to make these fights as long as possible so that you can buy as much time away from the ultimate, set yourself up. Because remember, first to 2, ultimates already took the sand. If you're Roar, you need to make sure that you stop the ultimates as quickly as possible.
I mean, 2CP who? Welcome to Blizzard World. Roar holding on to the final point off some really impressive staggers.
Yeah, it's going to be as well them just coming in with the ultimates to boot the ultimates away, because you've got this Bob, and Zytor's going to have that Nana boosted swapped over to the Ana, so you can give that Bob just a little bit of extra oomph and make him harder for the ultimates to wipe away.
Definitely an option for them coming in. The ultimates, though, they're also nearing that signature ultimate. The blade looking to be used. Just waiting for the right opportunity to go in. Kassar into the backline. They got to deal with Eli first, and they absolutely cannot. Kept up by Esports beautifully. They'll get tons of value out of that blade.
Yeah, and so you're going to see Roar looking pretty nice right now. They've got this rally. They're going to have to survive, though, the true test of this next fight, Joe. The ultimate's coming in with this Genji blade, with the supercharges. This is the wombo combo. This is the thing that can let that payload keep moving. If you're Roar, you need to find something. You need to kill this Genji.
Absolutely, they have the rally though, just like prior, and they're going to use it aggressively. However, they forget about Fuki up on top of the tank. Will be falling very close to try and peel. Kazar again jumping out of it wisely. However, will still go down to those hyper spears. And again, Roar grind their way back into a fight late.
Yeah, if you are Roar, you're very good at doing this though. And this, it's a good thing. You're going to have to continue doing this. But you kept a hold of an ultimate. Fuki's going to have this bob, and that's something that you can use to route the ultimates when they come in, either the high ground or the low ground. These teams, they have to actually move towards this payload. And so you can send that bob on through, and they have to deal with that threat before they come to the rest of your team. And that sets up Eli for this Blade and Teemo to get the time to get supercharges online.
Absolutely. What ultimates need to do though is just survive those initial 2 ultimates. If they can get away with that, then they can get away with the rest of this fight, use their ultimates effectively. They're going to start off with the amplification matrix and force them off the high ground right now, make them wrap around into the gate here. But Fuki, you already see, make it away around the back line to chuck in the bob. Eli follows up with the blade, and the damage is just too much to overcome for the ultimates. Eli with another massive blade.
And Raw doing again what they needed to do. They kept a hold of some ultimates to keep the ultimates away from the... We're saying ultimates so much. And now Antigen is actually going to go on to this Hammond, and you can't even touch. Raw doing such a good job of making sure that they were able to keep the ultimates away from that payload, with ultimates still in their back, Q abilities in their back pocket to spare, so that you could, every time they came knocking, have the supercharges in the pocket, have an amplification matrix in the pocket, have a bob in the pocket. All of these things that they were able to send out to burn time to the point where the ultimates didn't have any time left to spend.
Absolutely. Roar looked like a completely different team in this map. Everything that you just mentioned were the things that we were beating on after the first map. Their ultimate economy was not great. Their ultimate usage was not great. Their ability to take and hold space was not great. And all 3 of those things, they did fantastically on that hold. They were proactive. They didn't give up space. They used ultimates extremely efficiently. This looks like a completely new Roar, not to mention a player that we haven't even mentioned once this map on the side of the ultimates. Monk Mutta has been completely disabled.
That's the thing with Blizzard World. You do set your DPS up if you've set them up. If you don't have that space, if you don't have the high ground, it is so hard to actually walk into a sightline already controlled. And that means that Fuki has the advantage in all of these engagements. Every time Magnet has tried to go for a play, Fuki's been there, or even Eli on that Genji to shut them down.
Well, they've got to do it one more time here in the push. We did see a push end earlier in the day at the same exact point, so we know that it's completely possible for these teams to shut one another down. But I think a lot of it comes down to how they play the ultimate economy and whether or not they're able to get away with those picks, of course. Now we're seeing Fuki lock in the Tracer swap over to the Ashe Genji that found them so much success on the defense, however. And this setup is really curious. Taking the lower left, they're going to willingly put themselves into a choke. And the ultimates get to hold on to their high ground for a little bit.
Yeah, and if you're right, you don't have anything to go for that immediate pressure on the point, except from Eli, who's just going to go straight for the ultimate's face, rather than try and pull this team away from the high ground, where they're really going to be finding a lot of value. Monk Matter already about 20% cut off.
Yeah, Roar need to look at taking them off, starting off with a halt into the accretion. Will be shut down right in its tracks. And both teams kind of just jockeying for position. The ultimate, it's a game of chicken, of how long can you actually hold this high ground before you're forced off.
Eli just going to manage to get Monk Matter. That's huge green sign for Roar, and the dive can come on through.
Yeah, straight from the side, you take down that main damage dealer. Kassar has a ton of work to do. Henningsen, though, takes down Fuki, evens up the score. Neither team within Ashe now, but the Ultimates need to think about rotating because Roar are going to get a really good position on this point right now and use the amplification matrix to hold it. Now the Ultimates don't have any option but to just wait this one out, give away a tick, maybe try and wrap around to the other side. They're going to go for a pincer maneuver, but that just leaves the Sigma wide open for the taking.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Sigma kills himself. And if you're the Ultimate, that is the main tank you need right now, especially with Eli coming into this lane.
This is fantastically done by Roar. They read the Pincer, they recognize the open Sigma. The fight was set up. Eli? Eli? We'll give him benefit of the doubt and assume that was a fat finger. How about that, Mox?
Yeah. You know what? We'll give it to him. He's been doing a very good job at keeping Monk Matter in that place, but now, when you don't have that blade, you don't have that pressure the Ultimates can influence this next fight with, because Kassar's got that blade. And Henningsen, he's got that supercharge coming through, and Raw don't have anything beside a rally and an immortality field to keep themselves alive on this card.
This is absolutely a winning fight for the ultimates, but again, it's about budgeting your ultimate so you can roll that ultimate economy. So we don't want to see them use too much to take this, not to mention mess up taking it at all. And Roar getting aggressive with the Gravitic Flux. Kassar finds the first pick on the Fuki though, and again, taking away that damage, the blade thrown in from Kassar, and this should be enough to finish it. If the ultimates have to use more, then they're looking at a disadvantage in the next fight, but it seems like they may have taken just enough space, although they are completely split up.
I mean, if you're the ultimates, though, you've got the Ashe, you've got the high ground, and that is going to let Monk Madness Bob be absolutely huge. If you're Raw, you can't really deal with it other than sending Eli straight into the Lion's Den, and that Genji is going to be so easy to shut down on his own.
Yeah, alone, he's a problem, but with this team behind him, there's something they can rely on. They do have 3 ultimates in the bank. Eli's getting close to that Dragon Blade. Meanwhile, the ultimates, they have next to nothing. Antigone is heading straight for a Gravitic Flux, but it's not even close to being charged.
You had to use Monk Madness Bob just to buy yourself a little bit of time, try and keep Raw away from you and set Antigone up better for that Flux, but Raw already have the ultimates wish that they had right now.
And this game is just constant jockeying for position. Both teams want this high ground dancing back and forth, but the Gravitic Flux will come out from Antigone and it won't even connect onto the ground. Trading 1 for 1, but I'll take the tank any day of the week. Spooky falls, but with it, they have plenty of damage. However, you're going to come out of spawn with the Bob. There's so much stagger potential. Eli's going to throw in the slice and dice for good measure. The Dragon Blade not finding all that much value, but it draws out a lot of cooldowns. Now the ultimates, they have to hold early here.
I mean, Raw has to be able to get this payload uncontested now because you don't have that blade to try and keep the ultimates off your back.
Yeah, Roar, they have so many ultimates to do it as well. They're going to throw in the Bongo. They can throw in the Bob. Admiral Raptors providing so much support. And Roar Esports, a completely new team after map 1, are going to come in and take the second to even up the score against the ultimates.
And it's a completely different side of this team that we get to see as soon as McMahon goes down. We talked about it. We said, this is the guy that always sets these plays up for the ultimates. Their entire composition hinges around that DPS getting an early pick. And as soon as Monk Mada went silent in that kill feed, everyone on the side of the ultimates follows swiftly after.
Absolutely, right? You weren't able to find those opening picks, and I feel like the ultimates, they have a really strong sense of positioning and how much pressure they have in a fight. But when you take away that constant bleeding that the other team's doing when Monk Mada is removing them one by one, all of a sudden it's less pressure onto something that's compressible and more so just straight into a wall that's just not gonna move.
I mean, if you look at the ultimates and how they played Busan, their strategy to dealing with the Batiste and the immortality field he provides was to delay the problem. They killed the Batiste, which meant that they didn't have to work around baiting out that immortality field. And now that we're seeing Saito staying alive much, much longer on Blizzard World, suddenly you've got to worry about pulling that immortality field out of that Batiste. And when you're running a composition that bases your entire win condition around a Genji Blade and a Supercharger, you don't have a lot of tools really to play around with, to put in, to get that Batiste into that spot. You've got a Sigma Flux, sure, but Sigma Fluxes are, well, they come along once every so often, and they can be cancelled pretty easily by killing the Sigma or even CCing him out of it. So it isn't that consistent way of bullying this Batiste to get that really key ability out of the way. You need to find something else to put in this Batiste's way to make sure that he commits the immortality field down and you can punish him for it.
And as much as we'll talk about Blades, we're going somewhere where that Widowmaker from Monk Mada might be a little bit more of a problem. Temple of Anubis has some extremely long sightlines, and as much as Roar showed us a mastery of alternate win conditions and taking away those immortality fields like you had mentioned, I think that really is gonna be a tough call up against a Widowmaker as strong as Monk Mada, especially considering the way the map 1 went.
Yeah, if you are Raw, you're looking at Anubis pop up, you're looking at Monk Mada on the other side, and you have to commit, really punish this Widowmaker or Ashe. No matter what hits can, Monk Mada is going to be coming out of those spawn doors with. You've got to go at least 2 heroes on your team committed to that dive, because you can't just send the Genji in alone. We're already seeing that Eli is very much afraid of moving in alone when he doesn't have the rest of his team to fall back onto, because he knows how fragile he is when he's separated from everyone else. And so you go for a little bit of the buddy system, you know? You'd put in either a Winston or a D.Va, just something that gives the Genji just a little bit more breathing space to go forward and deal with Monkmado, who will be in control and so hard to unseat from all of these clean, clear line of sights.
And this is all assuming Monkmado goes with the Widowmaker. We've been trying to figure out what really is telling them to go with the Ashe or the Widowmaker, but it seems like he's fairly comfortable on both. This is an extremely strong Widowmaker point, but again, the Dynamite does offer them some looks. Even so, dive is a possibility on this map, not just with the buddy system like you're mentioning, but going for a full dive on the attacker, going for some sort of a teleporter approach where then you can just get past those Widowmaker silos without even having to worry about it. There's a lot of different options for Roar to try and shut it down as well.
Yeah, and if you go for that sim teleporter approach when you're on the attack, you also take away a big play the defenders like to make, Junkrat, where you just spam damage down all of these corridors, all of these side rooms. You build up to that tower so quickly, and you just pop it out, get one pick, and that's the fight completely decided. And we are seeing a return, just as we get to see a return of the Genji, of the Junkrat, and not just on Anubis, but Anubis is the home. This is the OG Junkrat map where we got to see in Overwatch League Season 1, but there's no Junkrat to be seen right now.
And just like we were thinking might happen, Monk Mutta is going to be put on a Tracer, and it's full dive here for the ultimates. Again, no Junkrat quite yet, but Fuki's Dynamite's gonna be just as threatening as those mines, as the dive is only gonna be halfway committed here by the ultimates, and unsuccessfully at that. Henningsen goes in, but none of his DPS are there to follow.
Unfortunately for the ultimates, Raw predicted dive to come out. They've got Eli on the Mei. And so you find value, even if a Reinhardt doesn't come through, even if you don't get to separate a team in half when they go for those side rooms, in having that primary fire CC. Every time this dive comes through, they've got first to get through this Mei, then to get through Mortality Field, and all the while be surviving when they're only being healed by an Ana and a Lucio.
Yeah, this dive could be a bit of an overcommit, not wanting to swap off of it, staying very, very stagnant. There's so much space that they could be using right now, but they're starting off right, taking down Teemo yet again. This main tank just can't seem to stay alive for Roar.
Yeah, you really need to keep your main tank alive. Dive normally goes for the juicy, squishy targets, and the fact that Teemo went down so early means he's got to swap onto the Hammer just to get back into the fight.
Now everybody in a crowded room. That's exactly what this Winston wants. Antigone finds yet another, and these are just like shooting fish in a barrel for the ultimates. They'll take one after another, and point A with his way.
Yeah, Eli is all about trying to build up as much of this Blizzard charge as you possibly can, because the ultimates, look at what they're going to be coming in with. They've got that snowball potential, they've got that nano blade. Everybody hates to be on the receiving end of this one, and it's all going to be down to Eli. As soon as that Genji blade, you have to be able to counter those ultimates with a Blizzard and catch him and kill him as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, now Mox, we know the snowball potential is there, but they do need to execute it. You have to have the follow-up. Sar finds the first one on his eye toward the Blizzard by space, but the Tracer goes down in a one, and that is so big. That second pick, all that stagger potential now gone. The off tank's gonna fall in Naru, and Teemu cannot get a break on the side here as the Primal Rage comes in from Henningsen. It's all about the stall for Roar at this point.
Well, I mean, it's going to be so hard to stall. Antagon's so close to that bomb, but it's Chucky Milk with this Lucio not being pressured, has Science Fire, so even when Roar tries to come in for the kills, it's going to be so hard to shut these guys down.
Well, Monkmata does not find the pick successfully on the side tower, and that's going to give a massive opening. The creation lands, and down go two of those major players for the ultimate as Roar slowly try to grind their way back into this fight. They have 5 people. This is looking like it's going their way, Mox.
Yeah, it's just going to be what Naru falls. And now if you're Roar, you do have those respawns. Eli trying to find something with this Doomfist. There's a Reinhardt on point just holding up that shield, and the ultimates have been pushed back. But it's only for a little while, because they need one more tick, one more fight. And if an entire team gets ripped apart by a nano blade, Roar won't have that chance that they did in those last engagements. They won't be able to stagger onto this point because they'll already have given up that tick.
Yeah, Roar had to make the compromise to swap over to the stagger composition, and with that, they give away their entire set of ultimates. However, you don't need them when you got Hold Hook! Kassar, down he goes, unable to be saved, and now there's a lot of ultimate charge to be gained by Roar here.
This is huge for Roar, because you were able to delay the blade, you were able to get the Genji out of the way, and so the ultimates don't want to commit into this fight when that win condition, 50% of it just is not alive right now. And that's buying Roar the space to set up a counter. It's not going to be for Eli this time with the Blizzard. It's Admiral Raptor so close to that side barrier, and that, it may not keep your team alive, but it'll give you a little bit of space, a little bit more breathing room to deal with the Genji instead of just outward panicking.
Yeah, that fight was so massive for their ultimate economy, and pretty even when coming in here. Sound barrier used to counter the blade, but the pulse bomb connects on a Chalky Milk. We're trading 1 for 1. Make it 2 though, as Kassar picks one up on the tail end of their blade. The pool noodle slapping him right on around, but able to find just enough value to try and win over one more tick.
Yeah, Admiral Raptor so low, even lower, and that is going to be the ultimate. Surely taking this up. Now he's onto the hammer, just try and touch. Timo does not have the shadow bow. If he'd already gone onto that, obviously he doesn't have the ultimate necessary to keep these guys away from them.
This isn't quite certain though. Roar, they have the spawn advantage. The tanks aren't quite there for the ultimates. They don't have all that much in the way of damage. They need to have perfect target focus. Now a Color Lessons for a re-engage from Roar. This is entirely doable for them as Eli finds a pick on the Chalky Milk.
Fuki's so close to that pulse bomb. Can come up huge. And Kassar gets pinned. Timo comes in like an absolute wrecking ball and smashes that Genji against the wall. And Roar, the skin of their teeth, they've done it. And not only that, though, they've done it and they've forced the ultimates to swap their composition up. They're going double shielding to try and deal with these whole hooks. But Raw, they don't care. They don't have the Roadhog right about now. They're sticking with a double shielding of their own.
And this one's even better than the last time because the ultimates also swap compositions. You're not giving away an ultimate advantage either. The only thing you have to worry about is Kassar's blade, which is going to be completely naked. You put that up against the pulse bomb. I'm kind of taking Fuki's odds right about now. There's a lot of players in a very small area. If this can connect, even taking away just an immortality field, you're looking at a lot of damage being thrown your way. Here come the ultimates though, pushing into the point, and you see Fuki posturing, waiting for the right moment to come in, waiting for that immortality field to be forced out. But how greedy can you be? Because your teammates are slowly getting ground out of the fight. Haul into the bomb, sticks onto one, but it's the immortality field that's going to be saving their lives as they're taking extremely low.
Oh, but you're still able to get the Orisa. And Kassar's actually going to pop that plate, trying to find value, but first he's got to get through that immortality field. Only now can he go for picks, and that's what Raw, the time that they need.
Roar have done a fantastic job as well with this. Disengage straight back to the spawn side of the point. They're going to take a map for it with only a minute left.
Oh, if you're the ultimates, you were going for your massive big win condition. You were going for that blade, but unfortunately you weren't able to bait Zaito into using the immortality field early. And now Raw, they've got a win condition of their own. It's going to be Eli with this Blizzard, and it all hinges once again on the Batiste. Batiste so crucial in all of these compositions. Immortality field stops so many pushes from being successful.
And look at how proactive Roar are being as well. You can stop this push before it even begins. You can tell they're hunting, searching for that one opportunity to use the ultimate. The amplification matrix is going to make this extremely awkward for both sides to move in on. Rally, though, going to be used by Admiral Raptor just to keep his teammate alive. Will do so successfully and allow them to take down Timo. Now Antigon will go down, followed by a Blizzard. This ain't looking good for the ultimates as they're all frozen up and ready to be taken down.
But you still have to get through the Bob, and Eli is falling so low. You can't go for the kills because Bob's acting like a bodyguard.
The wall got a little close to holding them, but it will force them right on into the choke, exactly where you want them for all this splash damage. The freeze, the hyper spheres, the bongo will be committed by Roar, just trying to get some sort of foothold on the point, and they'll do exactly that. Close this one out and stop him at B.
Oh, the ultimate's not able to pick up that third and final tick, and through all of it, they really doggedly, stubbornly stick with Kassar being on this Genji, and Monk Matter was again silent in that kill feed for a lot of the latter half of that map. If you'd had just a little bit more pressure, because every single time the ultimates approach, the entire team goes the exact same way. There is just no crossfire going on at all. And if you'd stationed Monk Matter up to try and set them up for that high ground, then at least Raw would have that split focus. Half of their attention would be diverted to the DPS that we know can hit their shots. We know poses the biggest problem for this team. And so you would have just a little bit more breathing room for the rest of your team to move out of that side room and onto points, so you're not just being spam damaged and dynamited and burnt down by Eli and Fuki, and instead you're in that open space. Your tank line can go for those picks rather than just keeping their shields up and hoping that no one dies.
Yeah, now though on defense, those DPS that you mentioned weren't getting any value can start to work their way towards some value. You've got some longer sightlines to work with. Kassar can do what Kassar does best and just try and farm that backline alongside Monk Meta, try and finish off a lot of these dynamite kills. Eli still playing on the Mei though, says that Roar want to play a little bit more of an up close and personal game.
Well, remember, they are on the attacking side. They can try and go for a little bit of the switcheroo out of spawn, but this is something that you can absolutely run with, because you can use that wall as a sort of third shield to allow yourself to safely transition from the main part of this corridor into one of those side rooms without taking so much poke damage that Monk Meta's already got an ultimate before you even get to see the rest of the ultimate spaces.
Yeah, it's almost certain they're going to make their way in there and just deny a lot of ultimate charge. You know you win this battle of attrition. You've done it time and time again. The double shield long hold just tends to go the way of Roar historically. The ultimates are already giving up a ton of space here.
Kassar's already getting a lot of chip damage in though, 20% to that blade, and he can't go for the dashes because Eli's going to be there on that main.
Yeah, this May's making life hard, and already the ultimate's forced back to the point. They're trying to play this two-pronged approach, but we know what happens. They just go straight for the Sigma every single time. Chalky Milk bound to fall, taken extremely low, but it's Teemo who goes first. Roar getting way too big for their bridges here, but they're trading their way out so effectively in this fight.
Eli takes the eye away from the Genji for just a split second, and that's all Kassar needs to get that kill. Teemo's going to go onto the Hammond, so Raw know that they can still press this advantage, and they want to get this fight started as quickly as possible.
Oh, what a wall onto Henningsen, though. You're not long for life after that one. Now, it's just farming sports in the smaller room. Not as Hyperspheres. They're going to be more than happy to do that one. Finish off point A for Roar here. Start it off right.
Yeah, if you're the ultimates, you just need to buy yourself as much time as you possibly can to set Kassar up for this play, because you need that stopping power. Roar are going to be coming in with Eli on this Blizzard, and Zaito's already got an amplification matrix. You can't run away. You can't disengage from an amplification matrix and get out of the way of it if you're all frozen in Eli's Blizzard. And the ultimates, they don't have that Lucio. They've only got that immortality field to try and keep themselves alive through both, and those is going to be burnt down so quickly.
Absolutely. Now it's about being proactive, right? You don't want to go into that fight where you have to play into the blade, into the bob, into all this stuff that the ultimates have. An early pick here is exactly what Roar need to make their way in. Starting off though, they're probably going to go for the amplification matrix, just to throw in a ton of damage at the ultimate, see if they can find anything. Of course, you're fishing for that one pick, a halt into the accretion, but there it is, the bob. The ultimates using their namesake to try and engage this fight, however, not getting all that much value from it.
Yeah, they're hoping. They don't want to go in quite yet, because Eli has not hit that Blizzard 5% away, and you've got to hold on to it until Kassar pops out that blade.
They're confident they can get off a couple lives, but Henningsen again, caught in the corner. The walls have been perfect here from Eli, following up the Blizzard, and that's going to peel perfectly for the blade from Kassar, who now has no space to do anything. The follow-up damage is there, and Kassar is running for his life. The only man left alive on point here for the Ultimates, as their hopes tick away alongside their hopes of winning the match. Roar going to take it 2-1.
I love the play that Roar goes for as well. They know that Kassar's got that blade, and so as soon as the Blizzard comes through, everyone in the team walks straight into it. And the Genji with the blade, he can't do anything. He doesn't want to get in close because he's going to be CC'd, his ultimate's going to be gone, and his life is going to be following shortly after. And that was a big difference, because the first time we saw that Blizzard come through to try to deal with that blade, everyone on the side of Roar scattered away from it. That was why Kassar was still able to get kills in the first round with his blades, even up against the Blizzard. But that time Roar learned from their mistakes, and that time they pulled it off perfectly.
I think learning from their mistakes is the perfect way to put it, Mox. They came in, they fixed everything after map 1, and the adaptation from this team was just incredible. Time after time again, they showed us they could recognize their problems, come in and fix them. Even from map 2 to map 3, they cleaned up their play a ton. They had game plans for every single fight. They knew when they had the ultimate advantage, they knew how to press it, they knew the order that they wanted to use them, and it was so clean every single fight. The defense was gorgeous. The attack was just as much so, and the ultimates, they seem to be relying on these early fight picks maybe a little bit too much.
They relied on their DPS to open the door for the rest of the composition to bulldoze their way through. And unfortunately, there is a big fat door stopper on the other side that was available for Raw for a lot of those fights, and that was the Mei. And Mei is just so strong at shutting anything down that tries to get into your team, tries to shut you down by invading and pulling you apart piece by piece from the inside, because you can't. The Genji, we saw it, Kassar on that first approach when they were trying to go and chip away and get the kills, they weren't able to go in for the team. They had to set off a poke damage shurikens from afar, because if you dashed too close, you'd be frozen, you'd be walled, you'd be dead.
Well, it's a great adaptation from Roar, and it was the exact same adaptation that we saw in the prior matches, right? The Mei, like you mentioned, was big here, but it was bigger in the match earlier today. I think it's an adaptation that we're going to see a lot more of, especially from the team that may struggle in the initial matchup, kind of fall back onto that Mei as a way of dealing with the dive, as a way of dealing with these DPS threats that have become so prominent in the normal patch.
I mean, Mei is just an all-rounder. That's why everyone sort of knows how to play her. If you go into these tournaments, you have to have some form of DPS that can pick her up, even at just a moment's notice. Because sometimes you're getting dived, your backline is just not able to stay alive, and McCree, he's all well and good, but as soon as that flashbang goes away, and remember, it's on a cooldown. That's the crucial thing. It's on a cooldown, which means if you miss that first initial flashbang, it's gone away and you've lost the fight because you've fluffed your ability. Mei's CC, Mei's card control, it's all primary fire. So the only time that you have to worry about it being offline in a way is when you're in that reload animation. And Mei players, they're not going to get caught out by that one. So every time a Winston comes through, every time a Diva or a Genji goes after your backline, you can stop them immediately, and quite literally, in fact, and send them back to respawn with an icicle right through the brain.
Yeah, compositionally, we saw a lot of adaptation today, mostly in the DPS lineup, but when it came to the core, when it came to the supports and the tanks, we rarely saw anything other than that double shield alongside the Brigitte Baptiste, and they're getting so much value out of it that pretty much every fight just turns into this battle of attrition, and it's less so the first team to make a play, and more so the first team to slip up, or give the wrong amount of space, or give the wrong area on the map, giving the Genji or the Ashe some way in. And I think that's something we can expect to see coming into future days, because we got plenty more to go, don't we, Mux?
Yeah, we have so much Overwatch to bring to everybody, so many more immortality fields to be baited out of Batistes, so many more Genji plays to see picking up play of the game, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It's such a fun meta to be in right now.
Absolutely not. Ladies and gentlemen, though, we have an interview coming up after just a short break, so we'll be back to do that in a minute. So guys, I promised you a quick break. We're already back. It's Mox and I, already joined by the victor, Eli. Eli, how you feeling after that match?
Pretty crazy. Like, my heart is actually pounding still.
Yeah, I mean, Contenders Trials, you've come a long way, but it's the stage to prove it, and you guys did so fantastically. You guys had adaptation all over the place. It seemed like you guys had really figured out the Ultimate's game plan. What do you think was the linchpin to your success there?
We've been going over a lot, because the map pool is quite small, so we've been going over sort of every different scenario that we can come into in each map. So we're very prepared.
So does that mean that as soon as you saw a Genji coming into the composition, which was a real problem to deal with, you had a solution of the Mei already planned, or was that a slight diversion away from what had been?
The Mei has always been something that we've played on Anubis. Mei is incredibly strong on that map. We did prepare a lot for dealing with a Nanoblade comp for second point. Like, we know it's a big problem for us. So we had to come up with a sort of creative solution to that, which I think worked out for us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issues that the Ultimates were giving you guys had to do with their DPS comp. You mentioned the Nanoblade, but I'll harken all the way back down to map 1, where it was Monk, Mud on the Widowmaker and the Ashe. That gave you guys a lot of problems, but after map 2, it just wasn't a problem. Monk and I were talking a bit, and the maps made it a bit tough for them, but you guys clearly did a good bit to shut that down.
Yeah, the Widow was something that we didn't expect. We've never played against Widow there before, so, and Monk being very clean on the Widow was definitely surprising for us. But we had a little talk between maps. We came up with a solution, and clearly it worked out.
Yeah, I think that's going to be your guys' biggest advantage heading on further into this, though. It's just your ability to adapt and carry yourself even further on, regardless of how late the match goes.
Well, I mean, talking of adaptation, I'm sure that you remember that there was just a slight misread on that second map of Busan when you
Oh.
came out on the Echo. What was the math behind that? Were you expecting Monk Matter to be back on that Widow, or?
We were actually expecting them to play dive, and Echo into dive can be really strong, seeing as I can mark the enemy main tank, basically make it so he can't play the game. But then seeing them roll out on the spam was a bit different for us. Obviously, Genji being in a very good place right now, so we had to then go back and swap, but it put us sort of on the back foot for that map.
Yeah, it made it rough, but I've got one more thing I want to ask about. What happened with the blade on Blizzard A?
Right, I knew you'd ask about that. Genuinely, it was a misclick. I genuinely meant to like dash combo him, and I pressed Q by accident, like, but it looked like a BM.
We figured as much.
Yeah.
All good, man. Appreciate the honesty.
Kristen did a fat finger.
Yeah, no, we gave you benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
We reasoned that you'd been getting a lot of value
Yeah.
on other ultimates, and that you probably wouldn't be the one to go for the BM play.
Yeah. No.
And you guys still won the fight following and the map, and then the map after that, and so you take away a victory, man. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
You
Good
had
luck in
to
the
have
rest of your
to,
game.
didn't you? You had to.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm so curious.
Yeah, let him get away with his dignity and his pride intact.
You got away with the win. What more do you want?
Well, I mean, just to make up for the fact of Joe just trampling on your pride, is there anyone, Eli, that you want to shout out or say a particular thank you to?
Absolutely, our coach Hayes. This guy is like an absolute genius. He has helped us figure out every scenario, every possible puzzle that we could have come into, and he's really helped us being able to adapt so well. So shout out to Hayes, and obviously all my teammates. They're so hardworking. I'm super proud of them all.
Well, it shows in your guys' play. You come out with a massive victory to start off day one. You know what? I hope you guys can do even better in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, though, as for today, that's all we have for you for EMEA, isn't it, Mox?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a little bit happy about Eli. You know, he was here. You had to ask him about it, so you don't really have room to stand on either, do you, Joe, with your 25% Genji win participation?
Oh, it's going up. It used to be 20.
Slowly but surely climbing up the ladder as we slowly but surely get to see
We'll get there.
more and more Overwatch throughout the week. So you really don't want to miss some of these matches that are going to be coming up.
Yep, and there's more to be played tomorrow. Same time, same place. You guys know exactly where to watch it here on Monkey Bubble. That's for today, though. That's Mox and I. We will catch you guys later.